Hey, this is Erin Lincoln. I'm here for this hour to show you how to make custom accents with shrinky dinks for hair accessories and barrettes, like the clever barrette cover dies that we used here on the boutique accessory cards. And I'll also be showing you how to put the barrettes and the card together. I have a special way of making that card. So first things first, we're using matte shrinky dink film, which is kind of opaque right now, but when it shrinks, it's going to be white. Getting my Cuttlebug out, and this stuff is die cuttable. So we're using Limitless Layers hearts, the main heart image. And we're going to cut two of these right out of the opaque shrinky dink film. It's very thin, so really there's no issue cutting through it with a die cut and a die cut machine. There's one, and we're going to go ahead and do two. I usually like to do two passes, so back and forth, just to make sure, especially when using different media other than paper, to get a nice clean cut. Alright, we have two of them. Now I'm making these into buttons, so I'm using my Crop-A-Dial to add 4 holes in a button arrangement. And I'm using the large hole punch. Shrinky dinks shrink by 50%. So you kind of have to compensate for that with these large die cuts and large holes. They're going to shrink up quite a bit. Okay, go ahead at this point and bake in your toaster oven or oven at 350 degrees for about 5 minutes. Take them out, and once they cool, we can move on. I'm going to color mine with Copic, so I'm using a sanding block to kind of rough up the surface. And as you can tell, they're much smaller, and now they're white. That's what the matte shrinky film does for you, which is great because I want to add color to it, and that's why I chose this over the clear. I'm roughing it up with the hopes, I'm not really sure it helped that much, that my ink will soak in a little bit more. Since it is plastic, I need that ink to cling to something. Now I'm using, you saw a red Copic, a dark red Copic. You want to go darker than your expected results, because this is not going to be a rich saturated thing. It's kind of, you kind of can bet on maybe 2 to 3 shades lighter. So that's just a guide for you. And you just keep applying this ink to the surface. Keep going until it's saturated, you've evened it out, and I have found that a baby wipe, a non-alcoholic baby wipe, will help to get rid of some of those streaks. In this case, it really took some of the color off, so I'm going to go back over again. And this time is going to be the charm. And you're going to end up, or I'm going to end up, with 2 hearts that almost match the Berry Sorbet color, even though I'm using this dark red. And I actually think this dark red is the last in the Copic trios for Berry Sorbet, so that kind of makes sense. Yeah, this is only taking me a few minutes. I know it seems a little tedious and definitely messy. It's tacky, inky, but it will get you your expected results. And we're stampers, right? We get messy. All right, put that aside. And this time, with my second pass with the baby wipe, that color's going to stay. All right, just buffing it out a little bit more. Now, you notice I have ink on the edges. Those edges of the shrinky dinks are about 1/8 of an inch, so you want to make sure you run your marker tip along the edge so the white doesn't show and it looks nice and polished and finished. All right, I have my needle and thread, and I am just threading these like regular buttons. And I'm doing this now because if I sewed them directly onto my barrette cover, it would block the holes for the stitching. So they're just going to get glued on. It's just for show, this thread. But it finishes up nicely. Okay, that's the technique. You've seen it. Now I'm going to put together the barrettes and the barrette card. So if you want to hang around for that, that's great. And here we go. We have our Clever Barrette dies. That is the backer, which is on some vintage cream felt. that is the middle sandwich piece. It's kind of a scalloped edge, and that's on true black felt. And this is the topper, and I have it on some fabric that I've backed with heat and bond, and you need the stabilizer if you want to cut fabric with dies. And I have that on there. Now you notice I have my shim, my metal shim there. Very important to get those holes punched all the way through. Even though it's really tight, you're going to be glad you did it. I usually use my Big Shot. The Cuttlebug's just reserved for videos, and so this had to make sure things worked. Right, there you go. Now you notice I'm going to rub this between my fingers, the felt, and that helps to get those little plugs, those little felt plugs out of those holes. And I have another technique to show you how to help too if it doesn't go through. Depends on the felt. I've noticed different color felts cut differently. It's amazing. And here is the fabric, and I'm taking that backer piece off from the heat and bond. Okay, this is a technique I have for getting the felt plugs out of the Barrettes covers. You just take your needle and just punch it through really easily, and you can tell it's not taking me any time at all. Those things want to come out. Just little fibers are keeping them in there. You know, and sometimes you run it through and they all pop out. It depends on your machine, the angle, maybe even the humidity. I have no idea. The heat, the temperature. But it's really easy to just punch them out if you need to. Okay, I have 3 strands of embroidery floss, so I split a regular strand in half, and I am making my sandwich. Now, there is a front and back to these pieces, and when you have it in front of you, it's very obvious. The back is flatter and smushed, and the top has more dimension. You'll see it if you have these and have done this. And I'm just going to go ahead. I've made my sandwich with one backer in the behind, my liner, and my fabric topper. I've been asked a lot to do a tutorial for this, so I figured since I'm doing this with the little accents for the front, we might as well take it all the way. I find it's a little difficult to get started, but once you have 3 or 4 stitches in, things are now held in place with the embroidery floss, and you can whip right around. Now, seeing as I did such a great job keeping this in frame, I'm going to do the rest of this side off camera, and I'll be back in a second to show you how you put in that second piece in the back. And here you go. I have stitched all the way around. I'm finishing up, and I'm going to get that other half piece that's the backer. And you need the slit in the back of this barrette cover to slip in your snap barrette. And we'll go ahead and take this all the way around to the other side. And as you can see, my needle's going right through those holes. It's really nice. It's like a lacing card when you were kids. And if you have it lined up, and after those first initial stitches, it's a piece of cake. Afraid it's a little boring right now, but I did want to show you how you finished up one side instead of cutting it out of the video. Just back and forth. Now, I am not an experienced needlework person, and I know there's a way to make the back look as finished as the front. So if you know how to do that, feel free. I think it looks more polished. I need to look it up because I make a ton of these. And who knows what I might be having come out in the future product-wise that might need some stitching. Okay, we're almost finished here. We're going to bridge that gap. And if you notice, my very first stitch was not on the first hole of that piece in the back. It was on the second, and the reason why was I didn't want to tie a knot right there at that gap. I wanted it to have kind of more of a solid foundation for that knot. it's anchored a little bit better if you start a little bit down from the break in the back. Okay, just a simple knot, double knot. I guess a square knot. And trim the excess. Okay, here's a little snap barrette. Slips in, fold it back, and it goes. It's that easy and it's that cute. And I have one already made, and now we're going to take our hearts that we made with Shrinky Dinks and glue them on. Now you want to do mirror images of each other. There we go. So if you have a pair of pigtails and a little girl, the Barrettes face the same way. So be cognizant of that. Okay, we are making our card. These are the boutique accessory card dies. And as you can tell, of the main bit, I have cut 3, 2 out of paper, 1 out of cardstock. And this is my way of making nice, sturdy boutique accessory cards with no folded pieces showing. This is my trick. You're learning my secret. Okay, if you don't have chipboard, use cereal box and a glue stick or whatever, Mod Podge if you like, to get that on. And if you notice, all my stamping is done beforehand. You don't want to stamp once this is starting to get assembled because it would be a wreck. Alright, now we're going to do the bowed piece where the Barrettes are going to hold on to. And we're just using like a score tape. That's really the best for this point of the process. Edge to edge. I have a little missing up there at the top. I cut the tape off a little too short, so we're going to add just a little piece. Okay, now you're going to make sure, especially if you have some sort of stamp design on the bowed piece, that it is oriented correctly, and my gut was telling me it didn't, and I was right. So you just fold that edge onto the back of the card, the chipboard surface at this point. And that's really the last time it's real easy to adhere something. And I'll show you why in a second. Because that front is bowed, you don't want to put any pressure on it, so it's really hard to press down for adhesive to seal your adhesive. But I got a trick. Of course I got a trick, right? Okay, I'm using my fingers, but now I'm going to turn it over. Now using a popsicle stick, or this is like a little rub-on thing, press it down. Go underneath the bowed part and press it down really nicely, and you can also get those curves nice and round. Alright, now we're putting on the last piece to cover up the white flaps on the back. I don't want those to show. Line up your hole, line up your corners. See, look, it's seamless. And again, use a popsicle stick or a pen or something round to press down underneath, and that way your adhesive sticks and you don't ruin that nice curved front. And here are our barrettes through the slit, and I find you have to slip your hand in through the back and push up at the same time you push down to snap the barrette closed. Keeps the bowed part from getting distorted. There you go. We have a gift now for a tween girl. This looks perfect for 8, 9, 10, 11 with coral accented hearts made by yourself. So thanks for joining me. I hope you learned something, and enjoy the rest of Stamp Affair today. I'm sure I'll be back with more.